I review a wide variety of guitars and related gear on this channel. Now, in general, I try to stand outside of guitar YouTube trends and instead focus on what interests me, hoping that if it interests me, a large enough number of you will find it interesting as well. Perhaps flawed logic there, and maybe I'd get more views by jumping on the various bandwagons. Probably, but that's boring, isn't it? So if I look at something like a really inexpensive guitar, it's because I'm genuinely curious and fascinated by how good some of them are. I think the information may be helpful, and I hope that comes across. But don't worry, I won't be buying a Chibson, even though it seems like every other video in my feed is about a Chibson these days. I don't have a lot to say on that subject. Counterfeit guitars don't interest me. I'm certainly not going to tell anyone what to do with their money, and I'm not going to judge anyone for buying whatever they'll enjoy, but it should be obvious there are some serious ethical concerns. And the fact is, there are more than enough good quality, inexpensive Gibson-style guitars available these days that put their own name on the headstock, along with where it's actually made. All of that came to mind when I decided to take a look at an interesting and inexpensive guitar that's based somewhat loosely on a Gibson. Now, these have been around quite a while now, and of course there are many video reviews. But again, I'm likely to review anything at any time. And this one's been on my list for some time now. So I'm finally getting into it. Today I'm looking at my second Eart guitar, the EGLP 610. Well, you know what? I've learned there's no real consensus on correctly pronouncing this awkward brand name. Some say Eart, some say Eart, and some say Eart. Well, I'm going with Eart, because what it stands for is Electroacoustic Art, and Eart seems closest to me. You know, I do like that they didn't just choose some Western-sounding name like Harley Benton or Michael Kelly. Still, couldn't they have chosen something we'd all know how to pronounce? Anyway, like the S-style Eart I reviewed a couple years back, this one appears to be very cleanly built. And this satin gunmetal gray finish is pretty unique. I don't recall handling anything quite like it. It almost looks like it's carved out of granite. Now, I don't know that it'd be my first choice, but these are available with more conventional finishes, and it's certainly not unattractive. Now, this body is quite thin. It has a belly cut, and the guitar weighs about 7.2 pounds. Reminds me a lot of the Gibson Les Paul Modern Light I reviewed. Now, given the modern vibe, I am slightly surprised there's no extra contouring at the heel. Well, that's no big deal for me. I'm used to vintage-style guitars, so I don't generally require some kind of extra contouring to get to the upper frets. Now, the pickups were a real surprise on this one. While the ceramic pickups on the S-style I reviewed weren't really my cup of tea, these Alnico 2 humbuckers are genuinely quite good. Seems crazy to say, but they actually remind me a lot of the Seymour Duncan Alnico 2 Pros I've had. Now, I'm not saying they're a match, but they do have the characteristic sweetness in the highs, the rich mids, and the slightly spongy lows that I associate with vintage-style Alnico 2 humbuckers. Honestly, I wouldn't even think about swapping them out unless you're after something very specifically different. Measuring resistance, I got 7.5K for the neck and 7.8 for the bridge. So right in the vintage PAF zone. Now these tuners appear to be Grover copies, and they feel nice and smooth with an 18-to-1 ratio. And despite being a fairly generic circuit board selector switch, this one feels quite solid. Now a real standout is this beautiful rosewood board. Honestly, if everyone used rosewood that looked this nice on all their guitars, well, that'd be one less complaint for the internet to bang on about. The body and neck are listed as roasted mahogany or roasted akume, depending on which specs you're reading. In any case, the neck is a C to D carve with a compound radius fingerboard that goes from 9.5 to 14 inches. And surprisingly, it's not a thin neck, but a medium thickness, measuring 0.85 inch at the first fret and 0.9 at the 12th. Then there's these stainless steel frets, which are beautifully dressed. They have the rounded ends that are set in from the fingerboard edges. And my understanding is they cut them exactly to size and round them off before the fret is ever installed, so it never reaches the edge of the fretboard. The result is perfect fret ends, and you'll never have to worry about developing any fret sprout. Now, do you lose too much fingerboard when doing it that way? Well, you'd think so, but there's still plenty of fingerboard edge. The nut is advertised as bone, and it sure looks it. Now, I'm not going to bite it or set it on fire to verify that, but I'm fairly confident it is what they say it is. It measures 1.650 inch wide, or about 42 millimeters, and is very well cut and nicely slotted. If I were actually keeping this one, I might take the height down just a touch, but it's certainly acceptable the way it is, and much closer to perfect than you usually get with the majority of new guitars, let alone inexpensive ones. Now, I do like this truss rod cover that swings open so you don't have to remove it to adjust the rod. It's a handy feature I've seen on some Ibanez guitars as well. Other classy touches are the way the back plate sits nicely flush with the body, and the use of a metal output jack plate. The jack itself feels very secure. I gotta say, there's really very little to find fault with here. The one thing I'm not crazy about are these bright white inlays. Though I think the shape is fine, but aside from that, it's lightweight, it's comfortable, it required minimal setup tweaking, and it sounds very nice as well. All for under $340. Well, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Now, don't forget to like this video. And if you still haven't subscribed, well, it's time to smash that subscribe button. And of course, if you'd like to further support the channel, hop on over to patreon.com/LeonardGriffeyBlues, where you can become a patron of the channel for the price of a coffee. And while you're there, pick up one of these stylish mugs. And with that, I'll say goodbye for now, and I will see you again very soon.